Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to tonight's webinar, Making the Most of Your Campus Tour. My name's Lindsay. I'm the host tonight along with two of our Princeton Review experts, Lisa and Emily. Just so you know, everyone's lines are muted, but if you have any questions, please use the questions panel in your go-to webinar box. We'll try and get to everyone's questions tonight after the webinar, but if we don't get to yours, don't worry. Someone from our team will reach out to you after the webinar. And at this point, I'd like to pass the mic over to Emily to get us started.
Sorry about that. I think I was actually muted. I'm actually Lisa. This is Lisa McLaughlin, and I am the National Product Manager for College and Graduate Admissions here at the Princeton Review, and I'm going to have Emily introduce herself in a minute. I am so excited that you are joining us tonight, and we have a ton of very valuable information for you because I know it is the season when you as parents are frantically trying to figure out where it is you're going to visit colleges and starting to plan your visits. And I'm here to give you a lot of fabulous tips that I don't think you're going to hear other places on what to do to make the most of not just your campus tour, but your time on campus and in that area. Emily's here, and Emily is actually one of our incredible college coaches here at the Princeton Review. I'm going to have her introduce herself and Emily, tell us a little bit about what it is you do here at the Princeton Review.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Emily. I'm referred to often as Coach Emily here at the Princeton Review. I work with students enrolled in our college admissions counseling programs. So anywhere from sophomores, juniors, seniors. I think we even have a couple freshmen on board this year as well, which is exciting. So working with students of all different ages and helping them get prepared for the college application process. And obviously that's a lot more intensive junior and senior year. Sophomore year, it's kind of looking at the holistic picture. And so just helping give them some motivation and some advice along the way, along with our incredible counselors that we have on staff as well. So just helping students manage their college application process over the high school years.
All right. And Emily and I are actually here tonight. Both of us are based in Austin, Texas. That's where the operations take place for our college admissions counseling. We work virtually with students all over the world. And at the very end, I'll give you a little bit of information and a way to connect to our admissions enrollment advisors if you're interested in our college admissions counseling services. So without further ado, I'm going to launch a couple of polls. I'm actually throughout. I'm going to ask some questions. I do ask you, almost sort of beg you to please participate in these polls. It helps me so much to know who is in the room, so to speak. And so if you can please answer those as they come up. And while I launch the first couple, I'm going to talk a little bit about my background, so it is so you know who it is that's giving you this advice tonight. So my first question is this: I would love to know who is in the room, so to speak. So please let me know if you're the student, the parent, maybe both the student and the parent are sitting in the room, or you're another professional, which we love to have. If you're a counselor or something else in the field of admissions, we'd love to know that. So if you can kind of shoot there, and we can see if you're voting or not, and I get percentages. So now we're looking at roughly 87% of you have voted. So that's fabulous. Thank you so much for participating. Very exciting. So we have lots of parents in the room and lots of both, which is great. We love for both parents and students to definitely participate in these. The next poll that I'm going to launch is I need to know what grade level you're in. So are you a high school student? If you're a parent, just go ahead and mark the one that, I guess, your favorite child, just kidding. Go ahead and mark the student that you're really kind of thinking about as far as these campus visits, or maybe you're a student or a parent that's really far ahead here and you've got a middle schooler. Go ahead and let us know that as well. All right, our predominantly 11th graders. Ooh, some middle schoolers in there too, okay. All right, so we've got actually mostly 10th and 11th graders, so that's great. So a little bit about me, so you know, I have actually been in the field of college admissions and college admissions counseling for more than 20 years. And I actually started out when I was a student at UC Santa Barbara. I actually started helping students with college tours, and that was my sort of first introduction to what it is, takes place when students are visiting campuses. And I ended up becoming a teacher and then a college readiness coordinator. I have taken, like, no joke, thousands of students on campus tours and college visits. And so I'm going to give you a lot of advice and things that you may not know about what you should be doing on a campus visit. And it goes far past just, going along with the campus tour or what's called the information session. So I was a college readiness coordinator. I actually, had a college admissions counseling business for a while, and now I'm working here at the Princeton Review. And I worked with lots of directors of financial aid and in admissions offices, and I'm going to give you lots of advice. And so I hope that you will ask questions as we go. Emily is going to do her best to answer questions, and if she doesn't get to them, then we'll make sure that someone does get back to you as soon as possible with answers to your questions as we go. So to start, what I would like to talk to you about is the purpose of campus visits. So we have mostly juniors in the room. So most of you, I'm sure, you're following the purpose of, you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to figure out where it is you're going to apply. And then even backing up from that, you're trying to figure out what it is you're really looking for in a college. And I have to say, I applaud you as students and as parents that you are, even as sophomores as well, that you are starting early on this college search process. The number one thing you want to think about as far as a campus visit is this is your opportunity to really create that college picture, to really come up with what it is you're looking for in a college and to feel the fit when you're on that campus. The best way for you to do that is to live it, breathe it, walk it, talk it, walk around that campus and ask questions and get to know what is happening, what is the vibe, and does it feel good to you? I'm going to give the parents a lot of tips and advice as well as far as what you should and should not do on this campus tour. But what I need to say is that, students, this tour is for you. And so you want to be the one that is thinking about what you have to get out of this campus visit. So we're going to talk about the best time to visit, what you need to think about beforehand, and our great editor-in-chief Rob Franek, he gives a lot. He goes on college tours and campus visits all the time, and you'll hear him say that you have to do your research beforehand. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is you should look for before you even step foot on campus. But students, this is your opportunity, and so to the parents that are in the room right now, what I'll say is this is the time for you to pass the reins to your student. You do not want to be the one that's monopolizing the tour guide's time. And I have to say again, I've gone on hundreds of campus visits, and the tour guides are really there to talk and communicate with the students on the tour because the students are the ones going to the campus. So what I usually tell parents, honestly, is you want to, back up a little bit, and you want to take it all in, soak it all in, maybe not ask your student a ton of questions about how they're feeling on these campus visits. That students sort of take these visits differently. Some of them, they want to ask a lot of questions. Some of them are going to be silent, but know that they're still absorbing it all and getting the feel for it. Remember, this is, for most of you, this is the first time the students are going to be living away from home. So we want your students to walk around and really feel what it's going to be like on their own and look around and see if they connect to the people that are around them or have some similarities or, what it is they're looking for. So it's important that the student really absorbs the feel. So that's a big purpose, is it's going to help the student to create that picture in their mind of what life is going to be like after they move out of the house. And so that's something that's important. The other piece to note, and you may or may not have heard this, but lots of colleges, especially the private, more selective schools, they're actually looking for students who demonstrate interest. And for many colleges that are in that category, not so much the public schools, the larger schools that really funnel thousands and thousands of applications, and it's less of a holistic process at some of these schools, but the private schools and the more selective colleges are looking for students who demonstrate interest in terms of a visit, that they're spending time on a campus to feel the fit. And how does that come out? Well, when you go to a campus, you're going to check in. You're going to check in with the admissions office in order to get ready for the tour and the information session. But When you apply to college, juniors, most colleges, especially the private and more selective schools, they're going to ask you why you want to go there. And it's not necessarily going to be phrased that way, but they're going to say things like, what are you going to contribute to our campus? Or how does our university goals, how does our academic department, et cetera, fit your needs? And what they're really saying there is, prove that you've done your research and you know your stuff about my school. And I'll tell you that there is no better way to get to know that school and to be able to intelligently talk about what fits you about that school than you going on a campus visit. So this is the time as students when you want to be vigilant and you want to be taking some notes, either maybe afterwards when you're back in your hotel room, or if you're, the next day you're thinking about the school, you want to take pictures. You want to make sure that you get a lot of information about what is so great about that school when you're visiting. You want to mark all of that down. For students and parents, I also say one of the reasons why visits are so powerful is it's such a great motivator for students who maybe are lacking in the motivation in order to get started in this college search process, or maybe grades are a little bit not where they want to be. It will help your student to really feel motivated when they see college life in action. And of course, I have fond memories of traveling up to the Pacific Northwest. I actually live in California. But going up to the Pacific Northwest and touring colleges there, and that parent-child bond, which I don't know, back then I called it that, but I'll say that it is time that you can really cherish and appreciate, that you're looking at your child's future and you're able to really help them to picture what it is they want in their post-high school experience. So it can be a really special time as well. So let me launch this poll as well now, and this is, I would love to know, when are you planning to visit colleges? You may not know, but maybe take a guess. So, before spring break, during spring break, that's usually the most common, summer or next fall. So go ahead and answer that, because I'd love to know. So we've got a lot of spring breakers, a lot of people that are going to be heading to colleges during spring break, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We've got about 82% voted. So if you haven't voted, please vote. Okay, we've got quite a few next fall. That's great too. And so that's going to lead me actually to my next question, which is, well, when do you think the best time is for you to visit colleges? When is really the best time to visit? In the fall, spring break, on the weekend? I decided to add that. Some people feel that. Or summer? When is the best time to visit colleges if you're picking between those four? All right. You're not going to be marked down if you get the answer wrong. So please vote. All right, here they come. They're coming in. That's great. Okay, so it's split pretty evenly between fall and spring break, and I'm very appreciative for that. So we've got a nice smart group. So what I'll tell you is that obviously it depends, okay? I would say that weekend and summer are going to be, the worst times for you to visit college. I would say if we were to rank it, first and foremost, it might be the fall. Honestly, it might be the fall because of the energy and enthusiasm that takes place on a campus in the fall. It might feel very different. The spring break is fantastic. I'll say that your spring break visits will by far be your busiest on those campuses. So you want to make sure that if you're in the planning stages right now, that you want to be booking your campus tours and your admissions information sessions as soon as possible, because it is highly likely that that time will fill up. Some colleges don't take reservations, but I'll say that the ones that do, they will fill up. And so you want to make sure that you're getting that on the books as soon as possible. Weekend is hard. So if you went to college, think about what it was like on the weekend. So you're in your dorm room, or you're doing something social, or you were out late the night before. And so there isn't a lot to really see when you visit a campus on the weekend. I know a lot of colleges will offer weekend tours, but I'll say that it will feel more dead when you're walking the campus, and that may not be the accurate picture of the college, right? So ideally, it's nice to go during spring break as long as the college is in session. It's great to go in the fall. I will say that if you are looking in an area that is cold and you are used to warmer weather. So again, I'm from California and individually counsel students in California, and I tell my Southern California students that if they're looking at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, they need to go there in February. And feel what that's like and feel what it's like to go through the snow. My nephew actually just went out there and he saw, one of the lakes was completely covered in snow, but it was packed with students. And that was exciting to him. And it was neat that people were out there. And, that's a place where if he wants to go, he's going to live in that for a while. And so he was freezing and he was cold, but it's good that he experienced that environment. And so I do recommend going to a place when you've got that type of weather for you to really experience that and have your students feel that. Other times for you to think about, we've got President's holidays coming up. We have, usually it's a great time, maybe some of you have Thanksgiving break off, and so that earlier part of that week. Remember that a lot of colleges, their session goes from mid-August until the beginning of May. And so you want to remember that if you're looking at, if your high school gets out in May, at the end of May, it may not be a great time for you to go because everything is shut down. The bigger colleges, summer might be okay as long as they run pretty sizable summer sessions. So that's something to think about as you're planning as you're planning as well. Okay. So something to think about, tips for planning, okay? When you start to think about where it is you want to go, I highly recommend that you get a sheet of paper, get on your computer and create a grid, okay? And on that grid, what you want to do is you want to list out the names of all of the colleges that you're thinking about going to in that region, because I'm thinking now of kind of a longer tour that you might be going on. I want you to list out those colleges, and then you have to do your homework, okay? And I recommend that either student and parent does this together, but parents, try not to, this is when, again, you want to pass the reins. You want your students to start to do this research. And what you want to do is you want to look first and foremost at the academic calendars of all of the colleges to which you're applying. So if you're taking notes right now, I encourage you to do that. And I would say that you write that down, academic calendar. You want to do a simple search, type the name of the university and next to it academic calendar, so you can pull that up, because you want to make sure you go when the college is actually in session. So there's, unique holidays. They might have different days when the students aren't in session. It might be a finals week when nothing is going on, but all you do is see students studying. So you want to look at the academic calendars, list out any weird dates that might be taking place when you, or any weird holidays or things that might be taking place during the time when you're thinking about going, okay? Next to that, again, I always recommend you do kind of a simple Google search, and you put in, for example, University of Colorado at Boulder campus visits. And it should take you right to the page so you don't have to sit there and search around too much. And what you want to do is you want to write down all of the opportunities that they have for visitations. For example, some schools, it's just a campus tour, and that's all that's offered. Most schools are going to have a campus tour and what's called an information session. That information session is usually led by an admissions officer. Sometimes there's a student panel, sometimes they have different speakers, but usually they're going to talk really specifically about what they're looking for in their students and what you can do to really make the most of your application or that college search process. You're going to get some tips in there. It's an opportunity for you as the student. Again, this is not a place for parents to be asking questions. In that information session, it's the opportunity for the student to ask questions. And so I recommend part of the homework is figure out what it is you want to ask. For your smaller schools that have information sessions, you might only have a handful of students that are sitting in the room that are ready to talk to an admissions counselor. So it's your opportunity to demonstrate interest and to get noticed and to ask some good questions. So that's something that you want to think about. Other things that you could potentially do when you're looking at that site, the campus visit site, you might see that the school offers overnight visits, okay? And that's where a student is hosted, usually in a dormitory, with a student that's volunteered and kind of approved, if you will, by admissions. And you get to really experience the flavor of the school overnight. That's something that I do recommend for a lot of students. It's a great opportunity for you to, again, get the full immersion experience of what it's going to be like and what the students are like on that campus. The other thing is that you might have the opportunity as juniors to interview. And so you can actually schedule time to sit down with either an admissions officer or whoever it is that's hosting their interviews. Not all schools interview, but some do. And some will actually interview juniors, but some do. And so you want to see if it's available. And if it is, I recommend that you do interview, that you take part in that as long as you prepare ahead of time and do your research on the school. You never want to go into a campus interview without information in your head about that school. It would be like you applying to a job and knowing nothing about that company. So that looks really, it just reflects really poorly on you. Okay, so if you're going to interview, make sure you know your stuff ahead of time and you prep. I usually tell most students that they're great candidates to be, to be interviewed, unless you're kind of painfully shy and it's really, really difficult for you to have conversations like that way. Otherwise, I think it's a great idea for you to do that and take advantage of that when you're on your campus. There's two different types of interviews. There's informational interviews and there's evaluative interviews. Evaluative interviews are evaluated and they're actually put into your admissions file after you apply. And so the information interviews are ways for you just to sort of get to know the campus or the alumni or whoever it is that's holding the interview. So I do recommend that you do that. Some schools will only interview seniors. Usually you'll know that when you look at their interview tab if it's on the page, okay? The next thing that you might see on these campus visit pages for the colleges is the opportunity to visit classes. That's something that I do recommend that you take part in as much as you possibly can. Sometimes they're going to have a list of classes that you can choose from. A lot of times there'll be a box that sort of pre-populates where it says what is your interest, and they pair you with, let's say you're interested in a business major. They might connect you with a department chair or professor in business that you can then schedule time to see the class. I highly recommend that if you are in a small or smallish school, that you experience lecture halls if you're looking and interested in big schools. It's important for you to feel what it's like to sit in the back of a lecture hall that's larger than the biggest movie theater that you've seen, with the professor all the way in the front, and to look around and see what it's like as a student and just sort of a note taker and being more passive in that environment. Same for if you're looking at smaller schools. It's important that you look around and you see, like, what is it going to be like on campus in a small sort of seminar-like setting, and it's important that you do that. One thing to note is that sometimes colleges don't have any information on that main page about visiting classes, but I've taken students to tours on, hundreds and hundreds of places, and I'll say that more often than not, you can absolutely get in to see a class, but you have to do a little bit more legwork, meaning the student, again, the student, not the parent, needs to maybe reach out via email to a department chair or a professor that you may be interested in. You do your research and say, hey, I will be on campus on so-and-so day. I would love to visit a class. What classes might be available for me to sit in on? And you'll kind of see what happens. It shows it's great initiative, and I highly recommend that you do that as well. So those are kind of the basics beforehand, okay? So beforehand, you get the lay of the land. You write on a grid when different schools are in session and the times available for the campus visits and the information sessions. I don't know if I said that before. You want to get that on one paper, because a lot of times they'll have like a visit and information session in the morning and maybe another one in the afternoon, but get it all on one sheet if you're doing a longer tour. After you look at that, then you can decide where are you going to start and where are you going to end, as far as if you're going to do kind of multi-cities. I've had so many students that I've worked with that book those plane tickets first, and then they go back and say, oh no, this college doesn't offer the tour at the time I want, or it's not available that day, it's full. So do that ahead of time and save yourself the grief of saying, oh no, I didn't do the plane tickets or the travel arrangements or whatever correctly. So we want to make sure that you definitely do that and prepare appropriately for that time that you're going to be spending on that campus. So preparing for the trip also involves, from the student, doing your research, okay? And so, if you work with us here at the Princeton Review, we make sure that you are identifying kind of those non-negotiable factors that you're looking for in a college, that you spend the time on what it is you're really looking for in a school, and that you do your research ahead of time. Once you know that, you want to think about the handful, maybe a little less than a handful, of things that you really need to experience on a campus, and you want to be able to compare apples to apples. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say you're a student who you want to, let's say you want, let's see, I'm trying to think of an example here. It's going to work for a lot of you. Maybe there's a sport that you want to play, or maybe you don't, maybe you were a basketball player in high school, but you don't want to now play at the NCAA level. You want to, but you want to continue that passion. You want to stay physically fit. So maybe one of your factors is, hey, I want access to intramural or intercollegiate club basketball. Okay, so maybe that's one of those factors. Hey, I want to do that. I've done it since I was 9 years old. I want to keep doing it. Maybe another factor that you've come up with is you want a campus that feels really spirited around sports. You want people wearing school colors. You want to see banners that advertise different events that are related to sports. Maybe that's a factor. And then on top of that, maybe you're an undecided or undeclared student when you look at the academic realm, that you sort of have no clue what you want to major in, which is fine, by the way. You don't have to be declared when you're looking at colleges or when you're applying. That's a big myth out there. Lots of students change their major, and the admissions officers know this, but that was a little sidebar. So let's say those are 3 things that you're really interested in your college. So what are you going to look for when you're on your campus tour as evidence that those things exist? Okay, well, first of all, you're going to go to the rec center on all of the campuses that you visit. Again, you're comparing apples to apples, and you're going to explore all of the athletic opportunities for intercollegiate and club sports. You're going to go to the academic advising center to find out, what do you do when I'm undeclared? Do you just expect me to walk in and figure it out, or who's going to help me with my major? You're going to look at that. And then when you're on these campuses, you're going to actually look around for the spirit. Are people, you know, donned in their school colors, and what are they doing? And, you know, does everyone know who the mascot is? And, you know, is it close to a weekend, or are you asking students on your campus tour, you know, what sports and what things are happening on the weekend that a lot of people go to? So you ahead of time, this is before you even step foot on campus, you want to think of the 3 to 5 things that you really want in a college. And then when you're on those campus tours, you want to look for those things and find evidence that those things exist. Okay, so come up with what your 3 to 5 non-negotiable things are that you have to have in a college. You should be able to sort of figure that out ahead of time. Maybe it aligns with something that you do now at your school. Maybe you haven't been able to do it at your school and you want to be able to do it in college. But you want to make sure that you're doing that. I have students that, you know, they have, you know, a gluten intolerance, or there's something, you know, food-wise that it's going to be difficult to be at a college if they don't have vast dining options. So think about that and what it is you want, and make sure you go after it, and you're identifying how you're going to find that when you're on your campus visit. Okay. Let's see, let me launch this next poll here. I'm curious what it is you are most excited to experience while touring colleges. And I just sort of put up some ideas. So when you get to that campus, are you excited about talking to other students? Maybe you're looking at the campus dining. Maybe you want to explore the surrounding area, or really you're interested in the academics or other, you know, something else I didn't include. And in the other, if you want to actually write, you can probably write in the question box if you want. You can write what that other is, so that way we know. So next time I do this, I'll know what to ask. So we definitely have 5% of you that are looking at campus dining, which is fantastic. I love that. And okay, I'm so excited that you've said this. We only have about 80% of you voting, so I'm gonna keep it open for a couple more minutes. Okay, here it comes in, good. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and close that. So 40% of you said that you're most excited to really explore the academics, and then the next highest was the surrounding area. So for academics, let's actually start there, because I like that. Obviously, you're going to college to learn, right? So what would you look for when you're trying to explore the academic offerings in your campus? Well, if you have a decided major, then it's somewhat obvious, right? You might be a biology major that's interested in research. So what do you look for? Well, you need to make sure that on your campus visit, you go check out the laboratories, right? You look at the labs. You go and identify what the undergraduate research opportunities are like. You go and chat with some professors. You need to make sure that that's something that's high on your list. You don't just want to leave it to chance that that's there on your campus tour, because I'll tell you that when you get to these colleges, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute about what to expect, you will be sort of funneled into these campus tours, and you may not see the things that are on that non-negotiable. You may not see the things that you really need to check out for yourself in order to really personalize your visit. So, and we'll talk about exploring the surrounding area in a minute as well. So you've planned, you know what you're looking for, and now you arrive on campus. Okay, so what happens? What's next? So the first thing you do, first of all, is if you're traveling and you're doing a tour, okay, a multi-city tour, I highly recommend that you stay the night in the place where your tour is in the morning. Okay, so don't plan on waking up and traveling 2 hours to where you need to go. That's an absolute recipe for disaster. Traffic, bad weather, you feeling late, student feeling rushed, especially if you have an interview. That's a very nerve-wracking experience. So I highly recommend you parents, first of all, don't do more than 2 colleges a day. It's nuts to do that. It's way too much. It's too much to remember, and it's exhausting. Okay, you as the parent might be super excited because you want to go see everywhere. It's honestly very draining for your teenager. So I recommend that you wake up in the morning, you prepare to get to that campus early. The first thing you should do is you check in to the admissions office, and that student usually will need to sign a card, or they'll sign a list, or note something on their iPad, on the whatever the registration system is for the next stage, or if there was a reservation for the tour and the information session, you're going to check in. Again, student, not parent, is the leader for this. Okay. After that's done, you're usually sort of funneled into a room, or you're told where you need to be, and then at that point, there'll be a little bit of an introduction about what's going to happen throughout the day, or sorry, the next few hours. And then usually students are brought up who are going to be your tour guide. And usually the students are going to say a little bit. They're going to introduce themselves. They're going to say where they're from, what their major is, usually something they're interested in. My recommendation during this point is to listen intently, very attentively, at what those students are saying, and you want to sort of try to move a little bit if you're standing, to the area near the tour guide that you want to be with, because often what they'll say is, okay, you are going to go with this person, this group over here is going to go with that person. So you want to try to, if you can, if you're not sitting, because it would be awkward for you to do that, you want to make sure that you end up being matched with a tour guide that you think is aligned with your interests, if it's possible. Okay, so sometimes you have a tour guide that really doesn't align at all with you and your interests, and so you don't want to not like a school or what you hear just because it's like it wasn't the tour guide that you connected with. So if you can, try to do that. Try to really kind of move yourself over or get in with that tour guide that you're interested in. This is obviously if it's a large group. If it's a small group, you don't want to say, excuse me, I don't want to be with you, I want to be with you. That would be rude. But you can definitely go through this and try to get with the person that's going to match your interests. Okay. So you're going to be going on this tour, and what the tours are like is a lot of times it's this is what's happening in this building, and this is what's happening in that building, and this is the most beautiful dorm that we have. That you probably won't ever even get to as a freshman. Maybe as a junior you'll be able to get there. So you have to think of the campus tours, y'all, as this is marketing, folks. Okay, so these tour guides are trained. Okay, they go through a training usually. They're taught how to answer questions, how to funnel questions. I don't want to say it's all canned, but some of it is. And so you have to remember that. And so what you should be doing on the tour is listening, trying to interact if you need to, or want to, with the tour guide. But most importantly, you're paying attention to the students that are walking by you and what they're saying to you. You're paying attention to, oh, they just mentioned that biology lab. I need to remember to go back to that later. Take those mental notes of, oh, I have to make sure I go and check out that cafe later that they say that everybody studies in, or go to the 7th floor of the library where they say those books are. So that's the part of this that I think a lot of people don't do. A lot of people, when they do these campus visits, they make the mistake of just doing the tour, then doing the information session, and then leaving to go to their next destination. Please don't do that. I recommend that you slow down, okay? So slow your roll. You want to, yes, do the tour, do the information session, but then go and check out those other things and go look at the surrounding area. One of the questions that I always tell students to ask when they're, talking to other students is, where do you hang out when you're not in class? So where does everyone go? Where does everyone go after class? Where do they go? So find out what the restaurants are that the students go to, or the coffee shops, or the sports fields that people play on, and go look at it, okay? Go check it out and feel the vibe. Because remember, when you go to college, you are in your classrooms that amount of the time if you're living away. So you want to go and feel it. Find out where the freshmen live on campus, okay? Because again, more often than not, the dorm that you're seeing is not the dorm that your student is going to get. So find that out. Find out about the living options. But go and experience what it is you need to experience on these tours. It's a big mistake that students make when you don't do that. The other piece is that it's important to think about the dining as well, and for you to take advantage of that. This is a great opportunity for you to talk to students that are in sort of a comfortable, carefree environment. Everyone's sort of there eating lunch, and look around, okay? So go grab your tray, go get your food, sit down, look around, and then talk to people, ask questions. The more friendly campuses, students will come up to you. Say, oh, you're here on a campus tour. What are you here for? And where are you from? Don't be afraid to ask questions, okay? The same if you're in the surrounding area, if you're staying near the campus and you're there at night, you wanna, this is when I always tell parents, like, go and walk around, find out where students hang out at night, go to a coffee shop, go to a restaurant, go to those types of places, and listen to conversation, like what it is that students are talking about, okay? But your tour, if you only go and the only thing you do on campus is the campus tour, you're not going to get as much out of the visit, and you're going to have a harder time picturing and remembering what was meaningful to you about a campus, because it's just based on the beauty of buildings. And so we want to make sure that you're asking the right questions, and that you're really putting yourself out there, okay? So I really like that people said that. I also like 22% of you said talking as a student, and that's great. It's great to do that. Ask questions, okay? It doesn't just need to be the tour guide. If you're sitting in on a class and then the class adjourns, you can say like, hey, what's it like to be a student here? You can ask students where else they applied. That's kind of always an interesting question. If you're at the University of Michigan, and you can say, hey, where else did you apply? Like, what other places were interesting to you? Because then maybe you can understand similar schools. So have those conversations. I think that'll be really meaningful and powerful if you go ahead and do that, okay? So that's kind of the basics of what you want to do when you're on your campus and when you're going through this. And I would say on average, I recommend that students spend like a minimum of 3.5 to 4 hours on a campus and near a campus, because you figure the tour is about an hour. The admissions information session is usually about an hour. So then that leaves you like an hour, hour and a half to, eat a meal, to walk around, to go back and visit. And then you want to create a nice buffer, okay? A couple hours ideally between that and the next place that you go, okay? If you're looking at smaller liberal arts colleges, this is kind of an interesting thing, but I would recommend that if you're doing two, let's say you're doing 2 in one day, and one is a smaller college and one is a larger college, I usually recommend that you try to do the smaller colleges later in the day, because, if a lot of times, like let's say if you go at 9, a lot of the students are in class, or they're still sleeping in their dorm, and you may not see anything, and then you have to rush off to your next school. So if there's less students, to start with, let's say it's a college with 1,500 students or so, you're not going to see as much action or things going on the campus. So try to do like the smaller colleges in the afternoon, the bigger colleges in the morning. And then when you're done with your college visits for the day, that's when you pack up. Maybe you spend more time back in the city or the town that you're visiting to really check it out, and then you move along to your next destination and get a good night's sleep before you start off the next day again. The other piece that I really recommend for you is that I still believe that this is valuable, is that bring some thank you notes, parents, blank thank you cards on your visit, because if you had an interview or if you met specifically with a rep on campus or you met a professor, it's nice to still write like a handwritten note to the person that you met with. And it's fresh in your mind. You can mail it when you get back home, but I think that's something that's still very, very helpful and appreciated. The bigger colleges, not so much, but it doesn't hurt. It's a good habit to be grateful and to show gratitude for the people that took time for you. Let's see, the other thing that I want to talk to you about with visits, athletics. This is important. So there are guidelines if you're looking to be a recruited athlete, and this is through, NCAA. You can absolutely, get this information in a search engine. But what you want to do is, if you're looking at, there's different recruiting guidelines and there's timelines when you can go and meet with coaches, et cetera, if you're looking to be recruited. But it's important that you do check that out on your visits, even if it's an unofficial visit and not official. You can have the opportunity to talk to different people on the team if they're not the head coach, but you want to ahead of time really think about that when you're doing your planning of when you're going to go places. Same with those of you that are in the performing arts who are looking at doing auditions. If you're looking at that, remember that you might be flying all over the place to actually do on-campus auditions, and so that could be the same time that you go and check out colleges in the area. And those auditions usually take place in the senior year, but you want to definitely make that time. I'll say that fall of the senior year is often when colleges will host students overnight. If you go in the spring as a junior, what you want to keep in mind is that colleges are rolling out the red carpet to woo their accepted students. And so it might feel very different if you go as a junior in April, May, because that's the time after students are admitted and they're trying to make their decision, okay? One of the mistakes that I see when I'm working with students is that parents feel that the campus visit doesn't need to take place until after you find out if you're admitted. And I'll say that if you're only applying to large public schools, maybe, rule of thumb, I say that that's sort of a bad practice, because students who go and visit colleges early and often, and they're really identifying what it is they want in a school, they feel a lot better going through their senior year because they've pictured the places of interest. They've actually walked the campuses and they've felt the vibe. The students who don't see colleges and then go through the process of applying, not only are they solely dependent on online research for writing their essays about why they want to go to schools, which I'll tell you right now, those end up often being the driest essays that admissions officers will read because it's sort of regurgitated from online. Not only does that happen, but then let's say that you've applied to 8 to 10 schools and you've gotten in to quite a few, then you really only have less than a month to figure out where you want to go, because May 1st is the national intent to register deadline. You have to tell colleges by May 1st where you're going. And so it ends up being really stressful on everybody if you wait that long to visit. So I urge you to not do that. For the sophomores that are in the room, yes, it is great. It is wonderful to do that and to plan this out ahead of time so you can see lots of different places. For the juniors, your timing is excellent. You've got President's Week coming up, so some places might be open. You've got your spring break ahead of you. You've got your August, so you've got plenty of time to go ahead and map those things out. I'll say this, it can be overwhelming to plan this, and I do understand that. There is a tool that I absolutely love, and it is CAPEX, C-A-P-P-E-X. If you go there, you do need to register and create an account with CAPEX. It's not affiliated with Princeton Review, but they have a tool that we don't have that I really like, and it's actually their campus visit planner. And it's something that I do recommend. You create an account, and then after you create your account, in the top bar, you'll see it says visits. And if you click on it, the campus visit planner is gonna pop up. and this is so beautiful. Let's say you've decided that you're going to go to Boston, the Boston area, and maybe head up to New York after. You're going to go to Connecticut or something. You can actually put in all the colleges that you're thinking of visiting, and it will show you the best route. It will show you where to start, where to end. It will show you the time that it approximately is going to take based on the distance between the colleges. So it's a great way for you to sit there and say like, okay, I'm going to start, in Greater Boston and I'm going to end in Connecticut or whatever, or vice versa before you do your plane flight. So I highly recommend that. Our website, review.com, we have a lot of articles about making the most of your time on campus, what types of questions that you can ask. Lots and lots of great information among a ton of other things for you to get to know what it is that you need to do prior to going to campus, these campuses, and also while you're on your campus. I have a couple questions to ask you, and while I'm doing this, I'm also going to tell you a little bit about what it is we offer. So if you would like assistance with planning your campus visits, we do offer hourly college admissions counseling. So let's say that you've decided where it is you want to visit and you want some expert advice. We can actually help you with that. Our college admissions counselors are former admissions officers, and we can help you with that. That part of it is not a free service, but we do offer for lots of different things. We offer hourly counseling. So no matter if you are a 9th, 10th, 11th grader, we can help you to develop a college list. We can help you to identify what it is you're looking in a college. And we offer a comprehensive full service as well when it comes to college admissions counseling. And we do offer a free admissions consultation where our admissions enrollment advisor will contact you and will talk to you not only about what our services are, but also help you with some different elements that should go into like any consultation when it comes to college admissions to help to guide you. But we'd love to meet with you. If you check yes, then you will be contacted as soon as possible by either John Baker or Tristan Zelenak, and they will reach out to you to talk to you about what it is that we can offer you. For our admissions services, I'm just going to kind of let some other people, okay, so we've got some people voting here, about half of you, okay. For what we do in our service is we have, it's outstanding. It's actually a model that doesn't exist in any other college admissions counseling services, but what we do is we personalize our service by making sure that you have both a college coach like Emily and a college admissions counselor who is a former admissions officer. And these two professionals work together with the student and the family to guide you through everything you can think about when it comes to the admissions process. And we start with students right now as early as 10th grade. We can start earlier if you're looking at hourly consultations, but there's a lot that needs to take place. And what I'll say is, hindsight is 20/20. And it's always best to get started as early as possible if you're going to work with us, because that's how we can strategize and make sure that we are giving you an edge in the college admissions process. Again, if you wanted more information, hopefully you check that. I'm actually going to turn it over to Emily to see if there's some questions that we can answer for the group, because we've got about 10 minutes, so we can answer maybe a handful of questions. If you have questions still, please make sure that you write that in the box right now. And one more thing before I turn it over to Emily. We do these webinars the first Tuesday usually of every month. This month we had to change it a little bit, but it's usually the first Tuesday of every month, and it's on a variety of different topics. You do need at this point to re-register every time. And also, if you're not a friend of the Princeton Review High School on Facebook or Instagram, we actually really, really recommend that you do that, because that's how you will stay tuned to all of our fabulous events, including our editor-in-chief who goes and tours different colleges and gives advice. We have lots of Facebook Live sessions on test prep and different things. So hopefully you will make sure that you connect with us via social media. We would absolutely love that. So let me turn over to Emily. Emily, do you have anything that you'd like to bring to the group as far as questions?
Hi, Lisa. Yeah, thank you so much. A couple that I just got, a couple of the same question was, could you repeat the name of the campus visit planner that you were talking about?
Okay, so it's called CAPEX, which is CAPPEX.com. So if you just go to that, I think it's actually called the Campus Visit Planner. So if you do CAPEX, Campus Visit Planner, but you do have to create an account, and then you look up on the top tab and you'll find where it says visits.
Perfect, thank you. One of the questions we had earlier, and maybe just a couple examples, I know we touched on this a little bit, but some questions to ask on a college visit was something that came up frequently as a question.
Okay. So, you know, that really is kind of personalized for what it is you're looking for. But what I found great questions are, you know, not just asking what it is students do on campus, because obviously students do a lot of different things, but you can ask questions like, what are most students involved in here? Like, what are the most active clubs, or what are the most active organizations on campus, or causes, or things like that. That way you can find out really kind of what you know, where politically people are aligned, or you can sort of identify that. I love that question. Excuse me. I like questions that have to do with that. I like questions that have to do with the undeclared, undecided piece. Okay, so hey, I'm undecided. I'm not really sure what I want to do. How are you going to help me pick a major? Okay, and identifying that. But again, it should be catered to what your interests are. And I would have to say, I'd refer you to our website, review.com, so you can get the list of questions, because we do have that as part of, we have a list of a bunch of articles that'll list that out for you. If you know what you're looking for in a college, or you have an idea of what it is you think you want, you should cater the questions around that. And again, I'll say questions like, what do I need to get in here? You know, what score do I need to look good? Or what is a GPA? Those are not great questions to ask you guys, because you can find that information on the website. So don't do that. You should know that ahead of time. Okay, you can look at that. You can find that from our website if you go and do a college search. So asking questions like, you know, is the interview, do you offer an interview, and is it evaluative in the process? You can ask students, let's say you are an out-of-state student and you're looking at a college, you can say, you know, what percentage of your students are from my area? So asking things like that, but really doing things to get to know whether or not the college is going to be a fit for you is where you want to cater your questions.
Thanks, Lisa. Another one we just had come up is, if you decide not to do an interview and the campus knows that you're visiting, can that work against you?
So, this is an interesting question. Okay, so yes and no. You know, what I tell students is that the interview can be the icing on the cake. Okay, so not doing an interview, is it really going to make or break your chance of admission? Probably not. Okay, but if you're someone who does prepare ahead of time and you go into an interview and you nail it, there's a high possibility that that's going to help you. Okay, it's going to be icing on the cake. It's going to just, you know, it puts a face to the application. It lets, especially for the smaller schools. And I'd say that if it's a smaller school, you know, a liberal arts college that tends to be like under 2,000 students or something, and yeah, and you go and that was an option and you don't interview, I think it would look a little bit funny, because why not? Why not interview, right? You don't want to show that you're afraid of that, you know, so you want to take that by the horns and just like embrace the fact that it is your opportunity to have a conversation with the person that may or may not, but may be reading your application. So don't miss out on that. It's an opportunity. And, you know, a little bit about interviews, you guys. Interviews it's an opportunity, like I said, for a conversation. So it's not about you getting grilled for an hour. Okay, nobody wants to make you feel uncomfortable. They're trying to figure out, like, is this a good place for you? And it goes both ways. You're trying to figure out if that place is good for you and you're good for them. Okay, so it's this mutual relationship. We're so caught up right now in, you know, what do you have to do to get in? And it's like, well, wait a minute, you do have a say here. You have a say here in deciding and selecting colleges that are going to fit you and fit your personality. So why not take that opportunity to answer some questions that somebody asks you about yourself? Because that's what it's about here. It's about fit and it's about match. And that interview is an opportunity for you to show who you are and make that application come alive. And I usually recommend interviews in the senior year if you're doing visits. keep in mind, a lot of colleges don't offer interviews, or if they offer them, they're actually in your area, and they're done by alumni or selected representatives. So they aren't necessarily with the admissions officers there, but any opportunity you have to network and connect with someone that is working in the admissions office, I don't think you pass it up. I think you do your best to be brave and go in there and actually and nail it, you know, and just have a conversation that's interesting.
Thank you.
And we can take one more question if
okay. Yeah, absolutely. One that came up that sounds interesting is, what are some of the biggest blunders you think students can make on a college visit?
Oh, no, no mistakes. You know, I've seen everything. I'll say that. And honestly, in that, I will say I've seen more like parents do things, to be honest. I see parents monopolizing a tour guide's time or asking a ton of questions in an information session sitting right next to that student. It doesn't work that way. I think that, you know, being polite, being respectful is important. It goes a long way for you to do that, but just be yourself. You're there to figure out the lay of the land, to figure out what it is you want. You can't make mistakes. You're not going to mess it up. It's not about that. No one is looking at you that way. It is, try to think of it not as, you know, you're there to kind of show off who you are. It's more like you're trying to figure out what it is you want. You're the one that's testing the college to see if it's going to fit you, and not necessarily the other way around. So it's an opportunity for you to explore and figure out what it is you want and question and become more self-aware. And don't put that pressure on yourself. You all have too much pressure as it is. And, you know, just go and enjoy and picturing what life is going to be like when you move out of your house, because it's fun. And you want that opportunity to do that. So that was actually a good question to end on. So be easy on yourself, have fun, and enjoy it. So thank you all so much for joining, and we're going to go ahead and close this out. I hope to see you next month. Remember, you have to re-register. And if you've tried, you know, for a consultation, we'll go ahead and be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. And thanks, Emily, for sharing your expertise with us tonight. For those of you whose questions didn't get answered tonight, don't worry. Someone from our team will reach out to you. Otherwise, if you came up with a new question and you want to get it answered, go ahead and email us at questions@review.com. And this webinar will be archived on our website, and you can view all of our webinars at princetonreview.com/webinars. Thanks for joining, and have a great night.